Ladies and gentlemen, look at this gorgeous dish. This is beef bourguignon. This is a French dish. It's a classic way to do a beef roast and to make it taste unbelievably good. Hey folks, it's another beautiful day here in Dallas, Texas, and we're getting ready to make some beautiful food. This is going to be a fun recipe, and that's what you're watching is one of my recipe videos. That's one of the short ones. Now folks, when you get to the end of this, if it's not everything that you need, there's another episode, the next one, which is a full-on tutorial. It goes into methodology and technique and all of that. For now, let's get in the kitchen and take a look at this good recipe. Come on. Today, I'm going to be making some beef bourguignon. Beef bourguignon, yummy, delicious. This is a type of roast beef, or stewed beef, you might say. It's braised, is what it is. And braised dishes, well, they don't call braising the king of cooking for nothing. It develops flavors like no other. And beef bourguignon is one of those dishes that is rich, warm, inviting, and once you've had it once, you certainly want it again. It just is that good. Folks, I'm going to teach you a wonderful recipe. This is one of those little dishes that I learned when I was a boy. Mother, when she came back from France, had a lot of French recipes and good dishes to cook for us. So we ate very well when I was growing up. Needless to say, I learned a lot of stuff like this, and I want to pass on that knowledge. Now this recipe is old, very, very old. Okay, it is not an American recipe, it's a French recipe, and it is flat delicious. So let's get into making this. I've got a lot of goodies over here. I'm going to show you what we have to make this dish with, and then I want to show you the process and how we pull it off. It's a good, tasty one. Let's get into it. Come on. Now folks, when it comes to making a beef bourguignon, you need your beef. Now here I have a beautiful slab of chuck. I'm going to recommend that you use chuck for this, mostly because chuck has the right amount of fat and the right amount of collagen. The right flavors are here. In addition, the ability to cook long. Now chuck doesn't do well with short cooking, but it does do long cooking very well, so it's going to be the right cut of meat for this dish. Now, in addition, we have these items right over here. There's quite a few things here, so let me kind of point out everything that's going on. We have, of course, all of our veggies, and let's start right there. I've got some mushrooms up front here, and these are some baby bella mushrooms. You can also use the white button cap. They work fine. I have some carrots. Now, carrots are one of those ingredients in beef bourguignon that some people do it, some people don't. So it's sort of your choice. If you want the carrots, put them in there. If not, it's not essential. All right, but something that is essential are your small onions. Now, if you can't find pearl onions, look for some little white boilers like this, or some shallots like this. These little shallots work really well as a substitute for your small pearl onions. I normally don't use potatoes in beef bourguignon, and I'm not going to use them in this, but I'm going to be cooking these up as a side dish for my beef bourguignon. It'll go well with it. Beef bourguignon, you're going to be using some tomato paste in that, and I'm going to be using 2 to 4 ounces of tomato paste. It just depends on your taste. This gives it a good sharp acidity that's important in this dish. In addition, we also are going to be flavoring with some thyme, some garlic, salt, bay leaf, and our liquids are as follows: 1 cup of beef broth, and then we're going to be using some red wine. Now the red wine you choose, it needs to be something you don't mind drinking. It needs to be something that you would put on your table and serve to your guests, not a cheap cooking wine. So get something worth having, and your dish will definitely be worth having. Now folks, it's about time to get busy making this, but before I start cutting the meat, we need to choose a good pot to cook this in. Now over here I have a Dutch oven. If you have a Dutch oven, this works great. If not, use some form of oven-proof pot that everything will fit down into well. You want your meat to set well deep into this, and that way as you bring liquid and other items up on the sides, it won't overflow. Now the Dutch oven I have is really deep, deeper than what I need, but it'll do this dish well. However, it's not worth a darn if it's cold, so I need to get this guy down in the oven. My oven's preheating at 350 degrees. I'm going to put this in there, and after 20 minutes, I'll pull it out and I'll set it over a medium-low flame as I throw my meat in and get it searing in this pot. So you need your pot good and hot before you start, and then we get up and cooking. My Dutch oven's about to come out of the oven. When it does, I'm going to put some oil in it, a little bit, put that beef down in it and get it browning. And once it's nice and brown and I've got a little browning on the bottom of the pan, I'm going to add in the beef stock, the tomato, the spices, and the wine. And then I'll put it back in the oven at 250 degrees to slowly braise. And when the meat becomes fork tender, it's ready to get on with the vegetables. Once the pot is really hot, I mean really hot, then put your meat in there and sear it until you get good browning on the edges like you see here. You see that? How that's browned off? The meat's not cooked through, but the outside's brown, and that makes good flavor, okay? So get it all browned, and then we go with the rest of the ingredients. As you notice, I still have that high flame underneath it, and it's come up to a good simmer, and I want that. Before I put it in the oven, I like to see that action going on. I'm adding just a little more red wine, that other half a cup I mentioned. And folks, that's the better part of a bottle right there, okay? Now, if you're using 4 or 5 pounds of beef, you're probably going to be using a lot more, and you're going to need to increase the amount of beef broth you put in there also, and it's going to give you a very, very rich flavor in the end. All right, this is ready to go in the oven. Now, there's 2 ways to braise. There's called open braising and closed braising. If you want, you can do closed braising. You put a lid on it, stick it in the oven, leave it alone for hours. Or you can do open braising, and that's where you allow some of it to steam out. I'm going to start with open braising, and once I cook off some of my liquid, if it's looking good, I'll cover it. I may not need to cover it, but I can. But it's going to start just like this. Okay, I've just turned off my burner. Let's get this right down in this oven. Folks, my meat is down in the oven. All of that is cooking up. I put the wine in there, and the beef broth and the spices are all together in that pot. And then put it in a 250 degree oven. Now I put it in there uncovered, and that way it can reduce just a little bit, and it'll strengthen the flavors in the gravy actually. It'll make a more robust dish. And from here on out, it's just a matter of being patient, waiting. Don't allow more than half of your liquid to evaporate. If it starts to get too much, cover the dish, add a little water if you need it, and be patient. You need your meat fork tender, then we put in the veggies. Our roast is cooking up in the oven, and it's been about an hour and a half that it's been in there. My timing is not ready for me to put the vegetables in there. However, I am going to go ahead and do some preparation on them. I want to take my shallots and onions and remove the skin from them, that outer paper. And what I like to do is just to blanch that, and you know, once you pull them out of the cold water, that comes off a lot easier. I want to quarter up these into smaller pieces, and that way we've got our mushrooms ready to go, and have them ready in a bowl to throw into our roast when the meat is ready for us to put the veggies in. Folks, I have these blanched and the outer skin removed from them. Now I'm simply going to cut that root end off, and I'll have them ready to throw down in my dish. Look at that. That's a delicious looking pot, isn't it? Oh, we have a beef bourguignon right there. Now, I need to get this transferred to another pot, and we need to get busy eating. Folks, I'm about to thicken up my juices. I've separated the meat and vegetables from all of the juices that were in that pan, and now I'm going to thicken this up. To do that, I'm going to be using flour. Now, traditionally, French cooking, you would have used a burgundy, which is butter and flour mixed together. You just kind of warm your butter up to room temperature and mix your flour into it, and there's your bourguignon. But that's usually done to keep a stable thickening product in commercial kitchens. I find when you're thickening a pot like this, what works really well for me is to take flour in a shaker. This is a standard bar shaker, and I put in some water. Now you can also use like a mason jar or something like that for this. The real thing that you want to remember and absolutely know is never put hot water down in there, because you do that and you're in for some trouble. So I'm going to pour in cold water, and I'm going to put in probably, an entire cup there. There we go. Put the lid on and give it a shake. There we go. All right, so I have my thickener ready. And this works the same way that the Bourguignon works. It just, the whole idea is to get the flour down in that hot liquid to thicken it up. Now folks, I've taken those drippings, I've mixed in my flour water mixture to thicken it up, and it is thickening now. And what I'm doing while boiling this is simply cooking off that flour taste. I'm also thickening up some of the product a little bit by steaming it off, but the whole idea here is to cook off the flour taste so that when we put this back in the pot, there's no off flavoring going on. As far as how much do I use for this dish, now our ingredient amounts are as follows. I used about 3 pounds of chuck. What I made here is a really good recipe for 3 to 4 pounds of chuck, so kind of look at it that way. In addition, right over here we have our wine. Now, how much wine to use? It's really simple. Your wine, you're going to be using as much as it takes to fill the dish up. Okay, so there's no real measured amount on this, but on a lot of other things there is. The beef broth, 1 cup. Your bay leaves, depending on their size, large ones about 1 leaf, smaller bay leaves about 2. You're going to need a half to 1 teaspoon of salt, anywhere from 2 to 4 ounces of tomato paste. We're going to be using some garlic. That's going to be 2 to 4 cloves of garlic and 3 or 4 sprigs, small sprigs of thyme. For our mushrooms, you're just going to need to measure your mushrooms out for what you're doing. Now, what I used there, as you see here, I had about 6 or 7 good-sized baby bella mushrooms, something that I could cut into pieces. The same way on these, you're going to be using anywhere from about 8 to 12 small onions, or your pearl onions, you can pretty much double that. If you want carrots, a good sized handful of carrots thrown in there. There's no real measured amount on these guys. I'm doing potatoes as the side dish, so you guys figure out what you would like to do there. Anyway, that is your ingredients amount, and you've seen how it was done. Let's take a look at that dish. It's absolutely delicious. Now folks, there it is with the sauce thickened and over the top of it. Now we just need to plate it up and enjoy this fabulous tasting dish. And it's finished. Beef Bourguignon. A gorgeous, gorgeous dish, ladies and gentlemen. This is, well, it's really hard to explain until someone's actually tasted that finished, flaky, tender. Oh man, beautiful, beautiful beef flavor. And this sauce, it's a combination of robust and sweet and savory, just bouncing off of each other, and it's perfect. It's a delicious flavor and definitely one that you should try. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching this show, for watching this episode. And thank you very much to my subscribers, and to the folks that keep up with what I'm doing. Guys, I really appreciate you doing this. If you would, please pass along information about this recipe, share it with other folks, because it is definitely a keeper. Enjoy. Folks, have a good day. Bye-bye. Oh yeah. There it was, folks. It was a beautiful recipe, wasn't it? Hey, once again, if this isn't everything that you need from this recipe, please take a look at that next episode. That's the tutorial to this same recipe. And folks, there's a lot of information there. So if there's something you don't understand, that will explain it. Thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. And folks, please enjoy the view of downtown Dallas.